Hi. It's good seeing you again. I'm glad you reached out. If I'm being honest, I'm a little surprised that you did. You went radio silent for quite a while there. It wasn't really my place to pry. I figured you'd reach out in your own time if you wanted to, but it was a bit of a surprise to see your text this morning. I know you expressed that it was just coming from a place of curiosity, but I do just want to ask, are you okay? Is everything alright? Did something happen to precipitate this meeting? Okay. I'm glad. I'm glad you're doing okay. Well, in that case, what can I help with? What did you want to talk about? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Please, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you don't often use your site by choice. Is that right? It's generally more of an unsolicited manifestation of foresight. You don't really have a say in it. Okay. Are you able to access your site at any time? Or is it a struggle to call on it? So, no difficulty accessing that magic when you want to. You just generally choose not to use it. Okay. But then it sometimes manifests itself, I'm guessing. Right. Are there any particular things that seem to elicit that unprompted sight? Any consistent stressors, triggers, that kind of thing? So it really feels like more of a factor of just time and stress rather than a particular circumstance. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Or rather, I should say, that's consistent with the experience that a lot of seers go through. Particularly those that choose not to use their sight by choice, often. What you're experiencing isn't unique to Seer Obscura. It's actually something that almost all seers face at some point or other. In fact, it's actually something that most specialized magic races would run into if they choose not to use their specialty of magic for a long time. But the difference is primarily that most magical races wouldn't have much reason to avoid their specialty. Whereas seers often do want to avoid theirs. It kind of comes down to this. Your core is attuned to foresight. It's the kind of magic that it resonates and harmonizes with most naturally. Your core is completely capable of being redirected into any kind of magic, and it can do that job just fine, but no amount of training or practice or even just general use of other branches of magic is ever going to change that inherent affinity for sight. And when we choose to not employ our magical specialty for long stretches of time, our cores react to that. And for us, that manifests as an involuntary sight. And believe me, I know firsthand how disorienting and uncomfortable that can be when that does happen. That loss of control can be very upsetting, especially depending on the nature of the for lack of a better term, vision that you get struck with. If you came here to ask how to make that stop, how to not have that involuntary sight overtake you every now and then, I doubt I have an answer that you're gonna like. To be blunt, there are 3 options for people like us. The first and most conservative option is what you're currently doing and have been doing so far. Avoiding using your sight, and as a result of that, you will occasionally lose control, and the sight will manifest involuntarily. And that cycle just continues forever. The second is the most radical approach. You can't avoid your connection to foresight. It's inherent to you, and it's inseparable from your magical core. But while you can't separate your sight from your core, you can separate your core from yourself permanently. You can have your threads of power cut by a demon, and in doing so, you would lose your connection to the magical plane that our powers come from. It would remove your foresight, but it would also remove all of your magical ability. You would, in essence, become an unempowered individual. Obviously, there are very serious mental and emotional repercussions to a decision like that. It is not one to be made lightly, but it is an option. It's certainly one that other seers have taken, and I would be remiss not to inform you of it. But it is far and away the most drastic approach. Or there's a third option. Your core will call on sight magic at some point, whether you want it to or not. Think of it like a pressure release valve. If you go long enough without using sight, no matter how much of the other kinds of magic you use, eventually that pressure is going to build, and it's going to vent itself in the form of an involuntary vision. Or you can make the choice to open the valve when you want to, before it reaches a breaking point, and take some of the pressure off yourself. You can choose to use your sight rather than trying to completely avoid it. And in doing so, you maintain control over that experience. You decide when it happens. You decide on the focus of that vision. You have a better say on the intensity of it, the length of it, the depth of it. It can be as innocuous or as important as you want it to be, because you're the one setting the terms. I choose to live my life in option 3. I take solace in having that control for myself. Sight is often painful. I don't know that humans are well equipped to know the most likely future of anything at any time. It is an incredible mental and emotional strain from every side of the equation. It's difficult to know what's likely going to happen and to have to live with that and make decisions based around that. And then in a lot of ways, once you have experienced sight, it's almost harder to not know. To live your life in a way that doesn't involve knowing the most likely outcome, because you know you could. And that push and pull hurts. There's no benefit in pretending it doesn't. Being a seer is painful. It's painful to use your powers and know things that you shouldn't have to be burdened with. And it's painful to not use them and to know that you could know those things and maybe could have done something or could have avoided something. It's hard to maintain meaningful relationships. It's hard to live in the moment. I wish I could tell you that there is some perfect cure where you get to have the best of both worlds. Where you can have magic in all of its wonders and pitfalls and not have sight be a part of it. But you can't. The options are to completely separate yourself from magical abilities, full stop, or to have foresight be a part of your lived experience for the rest of your life, with no way to completely distance yourself from it. It's not fair. It's not fair to us. There isn't any easy answer. But it doesn't have to be all bad. I can't tell you what's the best way forward for you. I can be here to offer whatever help I can with whatever path you choose. But that's a decision every person has to make for themselves. If you're asking why I chose the path that I did, it's because I felt that I could live a life that better aligns with what's really important to me by choosing this. I didn't get to choose being a seer. I didn't get to choose being Obscura, but I do get to choose what I do with the hand I was dealt. And what's important to me is helping people. I find meaning in that. I hold value in that. And I felt and I feel that I could do more to help with these powers intact and with them under my control than I could otherwise. So, I choose to live like this. And if at some point those values change or my feelings around all this change, then I have that option to reassess. It's not a contract, it's not a compulsion. It's my life, and I can make of it what I will. And so can you. And I don't say any of that to imply that living a life with the goal of helping others is the right option or the better option. You don't owe anyone anything. It's your life, not theirs. Yes, I can teach you control. I can teach you how to govern your foresight, how to channel it in a way that doesn't overwhelm you. Looking into the time streams doesn't have to feel like someone's holding your head under the water, like the undertow is trying to pull you down. When you tap into the sight on your own terms, instead of when it's hit a breaking point, you can channel it. It's not a vision that's overwhelming you, that you're just trying to survive. It's a lens that you're directing. You can quiet out all of that static roar of infinity around you and just see what you want to see. It's an incredible feeling when you can make that order in the chaos. There's nothing else like it. Mastery of voluntary sight is not easy. But for me, it's worth it. So it's something I pursue. And I can teach you how to do it too, if that's what you want. Okay. Then let's get started.